Most people believe persuasion is about logic and good arguments. They think if they just present the facts clearly enough, if they build a solid case, if they appeal to reason, others will naturally agree. They spend hours preparing presentations, rehearsing points, gathering evidence. Then they walk into the room confident, deliver everything perfectly, and watch as absolutely nothing changes. Nobody's mind shifts. Nobody takes action. They leave frustrated, confused, wondering why people won't just see the obvious truth. Here's what they're missing. Persuasion has almost nothing to do with logic. Real persuasion, the kind that actually changes minds and compels action, operates on a completely different level. It works through emotion, through perception, through subtle psychological triggers most people don't even know exist. The masters of persuasion understand something critical. People don't make decisions based on what's true. They make decisions based on what feels true. They don't choose the best option. They choose the option that makes them feel smart, safe, or superior for choosing it. Machiavelli knew this 500 years ago. He watched princes rise and fall, observed diplomats negotiate treaties, studied how power really moved through the world. And he discovered that those who succeeded weren't necessarily the most honest or the most moral. They were the most strategic. They understood human nature at its core, not how people wish they were, but how people actually are, driven by ego, by fear, by desire for status and security. Once you understand these drives, once you learn to speak directly to them, you don't need to convince anyone of anything. You simply guide them to convince themselves. Today we're breaking down exactly how to master persuasion in 30 days. Not the surface-level techniques you find everywhere else. The deep psychological principles that actually work. How to read what people truly want beneath what they say. How to frame your ideas so others believe they came up with them. How to use silence, timing, and strategic absence to make people chase your approval. And how to become so persuasive that people feel grateful for doing exactly what you wanted all along. Before we begin, understand this. These techniques are powerful. Use them wisely. The goal isn't to become manipulative in the destructive sense. It's to become strategically sophisticated so you're never at the mercy of those who already use these methods against you. Because make no mistake, others are using them whether you know it or not. The only question is whether you learn to recognize and deploy them yourself. Let's begin with day 1. Stop trying to convince people. This sounds backwards, doesn't it? You want to persuade someone, so naturally you try to convince them. You present your argument. You explain why you're right. You counter their objections. You push harder when they resist. And the more you push, the more they push back. This is the fundamental mistake most people make. They think persuasion is about winning an argument. It's not. The moment someone feels you're trying to convince them, their defenses activate. Psychologically, humans hate feeling manipulated or controlled. The second they sense you're pushing an agenda, even if it's good for them, they resist instinctively. This is called psychological reactance. When people feel their freedom to choose is threatened, they automatically want to do the opposite of what you're suggesting just to reassert their autonomy. So what do the truly persuasive do instead? They create the conditions where the other person persuades themselves. They ask questions rather than make statements. They plant seeds rather than force conclusions. They guide the conversation so subtly that the other person arrives at your desired conclusion and believes it was their own idea all along. Machiavelli understood this perfectly. He wrote extensively about how a prince must make others believe they are acting of their own free will, even when being carefully directed. When people think something was their choice, they commit fully. When they know you push them into it, they resist or comply half-heartedly, looking for the first chance to back out. Here's how this works in practice. Let's say you want your team to adopt a new process at work. Most people would present it in a meeting. Here's the new system. Here's why it's better. Here are the benefits. Let's implement it next week. What happens? People immediately think of problems. They focus on what could go wrong. They feel imposed upon. Even if the idea is excellent, they resist because it feels forced on them. The strategic approach is completely different. You start asking questions in casual conversations days before any formal proposal. Have you noticed how much time we're losing on the current process? What do you think is causing that? If you could change one thing about how we do this, what would it matter? You're not proposing anything yet. You're just making them think about the problem, making them feel the pain of the current situation, making them want a solution. Then, maybe in a meeting, someone else brings up the issue. Perfect. You ask more questions. What if we tried something different? What would an ideal process look like? You guide the conversation with questions, letting others contribute pieces. Eventually, someone suggests something close to what you wanted all along. Or you suggest it, but frame it as building on their ideas. I love what Sarah said about streamlining approvals. What if we took that further and did this? Now it's not your idea being forced on them. It's a collaborative solution they helped create. They're invested. They want it to succeed because it's partially theirs. This is the first principle of dark persuasion. Never make people feel convinced. Make them feel like they discovered the truth themselves. Over the first week, practice this constantly. In every conversation where you want something, resist the urge to argue for it directly. Instead, ask questions that lead others toward your conclusion. Guide, don't push. Suggest, don't demand. Plant, don't force. You'll be amazed how much more effective this is than any logical argument you could make. Now let's move into the second principle. Master the language of emotion, not logic. Here's an uncomfortable truth. Most decisions are emotional, then rationalized with logic afterward. People choose what they want based on how it makes them feel. Then their brain scrambles to find logical reasons to justify that choice. This happens unconsciously. So most people genuinely believe they're being rational when they're actually being driven by emotion the entire time. Watch someone buy a car. They'll tell you they chose it for fuel efficiency, safety ratings, resale value. All logical reasons, but if you dig deeper, the real reason is usually emotional. It makes them feel successful. It fits their self-image. It gives them a sense of security or adventure or status. The logical reasons came after to justify what they already wanted emotionally. Machiavelli recognized this completely. He knew that appealing to people's fears, desires, and pride was infinitely more effective than appealing to their reason. A prince who understands what his people fear can control them. A diplomat who understands what his opponent desires can manipulate negotiations. You need to learn to speak emotion fluently. This doesn't mean being emotional yourself. It means understanding what emotions drive the person you're trying to persuade, then speaking directly to those emotions while wrapping it in logical language so they feel rational. Every person is driven by core emotional needs: security, status, belonging, autonomy, competence. When you're trying to persuade someone, identify which need is strongest for them, then frame your idea as fulfilling that need. Example: you're trying to persuade your boss to approve your project. You could present a logical case. Here are the numbers, here's the ROI, here's the timeline. That might work if your boss is purely analytical, but most aren't. So you dig deeper. What does your boss care about emotionally? Maybe they're worried about their own standing with upper management. Maybe they want to be seen as innovative. Maybe they fear being left behind by competitors. Once you know their emotional driver, you frame your project to address it. If they care about status with upper management, you frame your project as something that will make them look visionary. This positions you as a forward-thinking leader. Upper management will see you're driving innovation. If they fear competitors, you frame it as a defensive necessity. Our competitors are already moving in this direction. If we don't act now, we'll lose market position. Notice you're still presenting the same project, but the framing is completely different based on what emotionally motivates them. During week 2, practice identifying emotional drivers. In every interaction, ask yourself, what does this person really want? Not what they say they want, what they emotionally need. Security, recognition, control, power, belonging. Once you identify it, frame everything you say to align with that need. You'll notice people become far more receptive because you're speaking their emotional language, even while maintaining a logical surface. The third principle builds on this. Control the frame, control the outcome. A frame is the context through which people interpret information. The same facts can be framed in completely different ways, leading to completely different conclusions. Master persuaders don't argue facts. They control how those facts are interpreted by controlling the frame. Politicians do this constantly. The same policy can be framed as protecting freedom or as government overreach, depending on who's framing it. The facts of the policy don't change, but the frame determines whether people support or oppose it. Machiavelli was a master of framing. He understood that the same action could be seen as strong leadership or tyranny depending entirely on how it was presented and by whom. A prince who executes traitors can be framed as decisively protecting his people or as a paranoid dictator. The action is identical. The frame is everything. You need to learn to set the frame before anyone else does, because whoever sets the frame controls the conversation. If someone else frames the discussion first, you're stuck arguing within their context, which means you've already lost half the battle. Here's how this works. Let's say there's a disagreement about budget allocation at work. If someone frames it as "we need to cut costs," the entire conversation becomes about what to cut, how much to sacrifice, who loses resources. You're arguing on defensive terrain. But if you reframe it before that happens, "we need to reallocate resources to our highest growth opportunities," now the conversation shifts. It's not about cutting, it's about strategic investment. Same budget discussion, completely different frame, completely different outcome. The key is to establish your frame early and confidently. Don't wait for someone else to define the situation. The first strong frame usually sticks because people are lazy. Once they accept a frame, they don't want to do the mental work of reframing. They'll argue within the frame you set. During week 3, practice framing every situation before others do. Going into a meeting, frame the discussion in your opening comments. Starting a negotiation, frame what success looks like before they do. Having a difficult conversation, frame it as an opportunity for growth rather than a problem to fix. Watch how controlling the frame gives you control over outcomes without ever appearing controlling. Now we reach perhaps the most powerful principle. Use strategic silence and absence. Most people think persuasion requires talking, explaining, convincing. So they talk too much. They over-explain. They fill every silence with more words, more arguments, more justifications. This is a critical mistake. The most persuasive people know when to stop talking. They know that silence creates psychological pressure. They know that absence makes others chase them rather than the reverse. Machiavelli observed that princes who made themselves too available lost respect. Those who were selective with their time and attention became more valued. Scarcity creates value. When you're always available, always explaining, always pursuing, you lower your value in others' eyes. But when you're selective, when you create space and silence, others start working to gain your approval instead. Silence is particularly powerful in persuasion. When you make a point, then stop talking, the silence creates discomfort. The other person feels compelled to fill it. Often they'll fill it by agreeing, by asking questions that show they're considering your point, or by revealing information you can use. But if you keep talking, you relieve that pressure and give them time to formulate counterarguments. Use a practical example. You're negotiating salary. You state your number, then stop. Complete silence. Don't justify, don't explain, don't nervously add, "I think that's fair because of these reasons." Just state it and go silent. The silence will feel uncomfortable. You'll want to fill it. Don't. Let them sit with it. Let them feel the pressure. Often they'll either agree or make a counteroffer higher than they would have if you'd kept talking. Your silence communicated confidence. It communicated that you don't need to justify yourself. That's power. Strategic absence works similarly. If you're always the one reaching out, always initiating, always available, you're chasing. When you're chasing, you have less power. But when you pull back, when you become less available, something shifts. They start wondering why. They start reaching out. They start valuing your time more because it's scarce. This isn't playing games. It's understanding basic human psychology. We value what's scarce and chase what moves away from us. During week 4, practice strategic silence. In conversations, make your point, then stop. Let silence do the work. In relationships, professional or personal, pull back slightly if you've been too available. Watch how the dynamic shifts. Watch how others start investing more energy in gaining your attention and approval. The 5th principle is critical. Never reveal your full intention. Machiavelli emphasized this repeatedly. Those who succeed in gaining and keeping power rarely show their complete hand. They reveal only what's necessary, keep their ultimate goals hidden, and maintain flexibility by not committing publicly to positions they might need to abandon. When you reveal everything you want, you give others a map to deny you. They know exactly what to block. They know your vulnerabilities. They can plan around you. But when you keep your intentions partially hidden, you maintain unpredictability. Others can't easily counter you because they're not sure what you're really after. This doesn't mean being dishonest. It means being strategically reserved. You can be truthful about what you share while being selective about how much you share. In negotiations, never reveal your walkaway point. Never show how badly you need the deal. The moment they know you're desperate, you lose leverage. Keep them uncertain. In workplace politics, never reveal your full ambition. If people know you're gunning for a specific position, they'll either block you or use it against you. Keep your goals somewhat vague. Be ambitious, but not transparently. So, in personal relationships, don't reveal every insecurity, every need, every fear immediately. Vulnerability has its place, but strategic reserve maintains respect and prevents others from using your weaknesses as leverage. Think of it like poker. The best players don't show their cards until they have to. They keep opponents guessing. They maintain an element of mystery that makes them harder to read and harder to beat. You should approach persuasion and social strategy the same way. Be friendly, be engaging, be present, but always keep something in reserve. Always maintain a layer others can't quite penetrate. This creates intrigue. It makes people want to understand you more. It prevents them from dismissing or categorizing you easily. Over the final days of your 30-day practice, focus on strategic reserve. In conversations, practice sharing less than you normally would. Answer questions without fully exposing your position. Be pleasant but slightly mysterious. Notice how this shifts how others treat you. They'll often invest more energy trying to understand you, trying to gain your approval, trying to get closer. That's leverage you didn't have when you were an open book. Let's talk about the sixth principle. Align with people's self-interest, not morality. This is where most persuasion fails. People appeal to fairness, to what's right, to moral principles. They say things like, "It's only fair that you do this," or "It's the right thing to do," or "You should do this because it's ethical." And they're confused when it doesn't work. Here's why. Most people are primarily motivated by self-interest, not morality. They'll do the moral thing when it doesn't cost them much, but when their self-interest conflicts with morality, self-interest wins most of the time. They might not admit this, they might not even consciously realize it, but it's true. Machiavelli was brutally honest about this. He observed that people are generally ungrateful, fickle, false, cowardly, and greedy. Harsh, but if you look at behavior rather than words, often accurate. He wasn't saying this to be cynical. He was saying it so leaders could be effective. If you base your strategy on how people should behave, you'll fail. If you base it on how they actually behave, you'll succeed. So when you're trying to persuade someone, don't appeal to morality or fairness. Appeal to their self-interest. Show them how what you want benefits them directly. Example, you want a colleague to support your proposal. Don't say you should support this because it's good for the company. That's abstract. It doesn't clearly benefit them. Instead say, "If we implement this, it'll reduce the workload on your team by 30% and you'll get credit for being part of the solution." Now you're speaking their language. Less work and more credit. That's concrete self-interest. They're far more likely to support you. This isn't manipulation. It's understanding motivation. You're not tricking them into something bad for them. You're showing them the real benefits they'll receive, benefits they care about more than abstract company good. During your practice, get in the habit of asking yourself, what's in it for them? Before every persuasive attempt, identify the other person's self-interest. What do they gain? If you can't identify a clear benefit to them, either find one or reconsider whether you can persuade them at all. People rarely act against their own interests, no matter how good your argument is. The seventh principle brings everything together. Build a reputation strategically. Your reputation is your most valuable asset in persuasion. When you have a strong reputation, people are persuaded before you even speak. They're predisposed to agree with you, to trust you, to follow your lead. When you have a weak or questionable reputation, nothing you say carries weight. You're fighting uphill every single time. Machiavelli understood that reputation, what he called glory or fame, was essential to maintaining power. A prince with a reputation for strength rarely needed to demonstrate it. The reputation itself kept enemies at bay and allies loyal. A prince with a reputation for weakness had to constantly fight challenges, no matter how strong he actually was. You need to build your reputation deliberately, not by accident, not by just being yourself and hoping people notice. Strategically, decide what you want to be known for, then consistently demonstrate those qualities until the reputation solidifies. If you want to be known as reliable, be reliable every single time, especially in small things. Show up when you say you will. Deliver what you promise. Never make excuses. Over time, people label you as the reliable one. Once that label sticks, they trust you with bigger responsibilities, bigger opportunities. If you want to be known as strategic and calm under pressure, never let them see you panic. In every crisis, be the steady one, the one who thinks clearly while others spiral. Do this consistently and you become the person everyone turns to when things get difficult. That's power. If you want to be known as someone who gets results, focus maniacally on outcomes. Don't just work hard. Produce visible wins. Make sure the right people know about them. Not in an obnoxious way, but strategically. When you consistently deliver results, your reputation grows. When your reputation grows, persuading others becomes easier because they already believe you'll succeed. Here's the key. Your reputation must be consistent. One major contradiction can damage what took years to build. If you're known as calm and you have one public meltdown, people remember the meltdown more than the 100 times you stayed calm. If you're known as reliable and you badly dropped the ball once, that failure sticks. So as you practice these persuasion techniques over 30 days and beyond, always think about reputation. How does this action affect how others perceive me? Am I building the reputation I want or damaging it? Every interaction is a brick in the wall of your reputation. Place each brick carefully. Over time, that wall becomes your greatest persuasive tool. People will be persuaded by who you are before you ever say a word. Now let's address something important. The ethics of persuasion. Some will say these techniques are manipulative, that using psychology to influence others is wrong. Here's the reality. Persuasion is neither good nor evil. It's a tool. A knife can prepare food or harm someone. The knife isn't evil. The intention behind its use determines morality. The same applies here. You can use these techniques to help people make better decisions, to guide teams towards success, to protect yourself from those who would exploit you. Or you can use them purely for selfish gain at others' expense. The choice is yours. What's not a choice is whether you'll encounter these techniques. Others are already using them on you. Advertisers, politicians, salespeople, colleagues, even friends and family. Most people are persuading unconsciously, using techniques they don't even know they're using. Some are doing it very consciously. Either way, you're being influenced constantly. Learning these methods isn't about becoming manipulative. It's about becoming aware. Once you're aware, you can defend against manipulation, and you can use these tools ethically to achieve legitimate goals. Ignorance doesn't make you moral. It makes you vulnerable. Machiavelli wrote for princes who needed to survive in a world of constant threats. His advice was practical, not because he was evil, but because he was realistic. The world operates on certain principles, whether we like them or not. Understanding those principles and working with them is wisdom. Ignoring them out of naive idealism is foolishness. You're not trying to become a villain. You're trying to become strategically sophisticated. There's a massive difference. As we close, let's talk about the 30-day practice plan. This isn't just theory. You need to practice these principles daily to internalize them. Week 1, focus on asking questions instead of arguing. In every conversation where you want something, guide with questions. Make others persuade themselves. Week 2, identify emotional drivers. In every interaction, figure out what the other person emotionally needs and speak to that need. Week 3, control frames. Set the context for discussions before others do. Define situations in ways that favor your goals. Week 4, practice strategic silence and absence. Stop over-explaining. Let silence create pressure. Pull back and watch others come to you. Throughout all 30 days, work on revealing less, aligning with self-interest, and building your reputation. These aren't one-week focuses. They're ongoing practices that compound over time. Keep a journal. Write down what you tried each day. What worked, what didn't, what you learned about human nature. This reflection solidifies the learning and helps you refine your approach. You'll start noticing patterns. Certain techniques work better with certain personality types. Some situations require more subtlety. Others require directness. You'll develop intuition for reading people and situations quickly. By the end of 30 days, you won't be a master yet. Mastery takes years. But you'll be significantly more persuasive than you are now. You'll notice people agreeing with you more often. You'll find negotiations going your way. You'll see your ideas being adopted. You'll feel the shift in how others respond to you. That's when you know it's working. That's when you realize persuasion isn't about being the smartest or the loudest. It's about understanding human nature and working with it strategically. Remember, real persuasion is invisible. When you're doing it right, people don't feel persuaded. They feel like they made their own choice. They feel good about it. They thank you for helping them see clearly. That's the mark of true skill. Not forcing compliance, but creating genuine alignment where everyone benefits and no one feels manipulated. This is the art Machiavelli understood. Power used skillfully doesn't look like power. It looks like natural leadership, like charisma, like influence. But underneath, it's strategic, deliberate, and devastatingly effective. You now have the principles. You have the 30-day framework. What you do with this knowledge is up to you. Use it to advance your career, to protect yourself from manipulation, to lead others effectively, to build the life you want. These techniques work because they're based on how humans actually function, not how we pretend to function. They've worked for 500 years since Machiavelli wrote them down. They'll work for the next 500. The only question is whether you'll be someone who understands them, or someone who's forever puzzled why others seem to get what they want, while you're left wondering what happened. Start today. Pick one principle, practice it in your very next conversation, notice what happens. Then do it again tomorrow, and the day after. 30 days from now, you'll be a different person. More persuasive, more strategic, more effective. Others won't know exactly what changed, but they'll feel it. They'll respond differently. They'll give you what you want more often. And you'll finally understand what the masters have always known. Persuasion isn't about truth or logic. It's about understanding human nature and speaking its language fluently. The world belongs to those who understand how it really works, not how it should work. You're choosing to understand. That puts you ahead of most people already. Now go practice. Master these principles. Become persuasive. Become powerful. Become unshakable in your ability to guide outcomes in your favor. 30 days. That's all it takes to start. The rest is just repetition until it becomes who you are. Begin now.